This is Dolly's week 2 video recap. So I'm going to start out by trimming a couple of her nails. Since she's pretty calm when I hold her, we're just going to do this with her in my arms. And I'm just taking the very tips off those nails, getting her used to having her nails trimmed. Good girl. And then right from there, I like to move into something fun. So we're going to play with her flirt pole. Okay. Get it, Dolly. Good girl. And again, we'll do this at the beginning of each training session for just a minute or two before we get started here. Good job, Dolly. You like that, huh? Yeah. Okay. So we're going to start out by charging our clicker for Miss Dolly here. So this is again just to remind her that the click means that food is coming. So for this, I'm not asking her to do anything. I'm not even really going to say her name. I'm just going to click and then give her a piece of food. And we'll do this maybe 3 times before we get started. Good job, Dolly. Good girl. Okay, we're going to move right into following a food lure. So for this, I'm showing Miss Dolly that food first, getting her good and interested in it, and then I'm getting her to follow me. So last week, we started out with them just taking a couple steps. This week, we're adding a little bit more movement, and we're also pairing this with their name. Dolly. Good girl. What's on the floor here? What is that? Okay. Dolly. Good girl. And again, I want her to follow my left hand and my right hand. So I'm just going to switch and we'll do a few reps with the food in my right hand. Dolly. Good girl. And we'll do one more here. Dolly. Nice job. So something new we introduced this week is called the flying cookie game. This is to help work on their name recognition, and it's the very beginnings when we're working with our puppies of teaching them a recall. So for this, I'm going to show Dolly a piece of food and I'm going to toss it away from me. She's going to chase it. As she's finishing eating it up, I'm going to say her name. I'm going to mark with my clicker the moment she turns in my direction. Go get it. So tossing that food away. As she's finishing it up, Dolly! Clicking when she turns in my direction, rewarding right at my feet. And we'll do this again after she's done eating that. So showing her the food first. Go get it! Dolly! Good girl. We'll do one more. I'm going to try to get her to move a little further away from me here. Ready? Go get it. Dolly! Much better. Good job. Good girl. Okay, I'm going to do one more. Again, I want her to move a little further away from me, so it's going to toss these a little further. Go get it. Dolly! Good work. Good job. Good girl. Okay. Next thing that we are working on this week is our hand targets. So last week we were luring them with a piece of food. This week we are seeing if they're going to offer us a hand target, meaning we put our hand out nice and flat with no food in it. They hit our hand with their snout. So I am going to start with maybe 2 reps of having food in my hand, and then I'm going to switch to not having the food in my hand. So for this, I'm going to show her that food first and then pull my hand back, touch. When she reconnects with my hand is when I mark and release that piece of food. So now this time I'm just going to have my hand out with the food. I'm not going to start at her snout. Dolly, touch. Good work. And then on the next repetition, I'm going to try with no food. Still going to mark and reward for the behavior, but I'm just getting rid of that food in my hand initially. Touch. Nice work. And then same thing, I do want to do this with my right hand as well. So I'm going to have a piece of food ready, but not have it in my hand when I ask her for the behavior. Dolly, touch. Yes, good girl. Good job. Okay, we're going to move right into our offered sits. So on week 1, we use a food lure to get them into position. In week 2, we start to fade out that food lure and try to get them to do the sit without having to use that food initially. So the first rep I am going to use food just to kind of remind her of what we're doing, and then we're going to see if we can get her to offer us a sit without. Dolly, sit. Good girl. Go get it. So I'm using that reset cookie to let her out of that position before I ask her for another sit. Dolly, sit. So giving her a few seconds to figure it out. Yeah. Got an itch? Good girl. Go get it. This week we started to introduce downs to our dogs, so we are luring them for this. The easiest way to get them into a down is to start off with them in a sit position. So I'm going to get her into the sit first, and then I'm going to get her nice and connected to a piece of food once she's in that sit, and slowly bring it down to the floor. She should follow that food lure and eventually sink into that down. Oh, what's that? Sit. Good girl. So getting her nice and connected to it, and just very slowly bringing it down to the ground. Waiting for those elbows to hit, and that's when I mark and reward. I'm going to reward right on the floor between her paws instead of giving it to her from my hand. Go get it, using that reset cookie to get her out of that position, and then we'll do that again. Sit. Down. Good girl. So she got out of position there because she hit the food with her snout and it kind of went out a little far and she got up to get it. No problem, I'm just going to have her do it again. Dolly, sit. Good girl. Down. Go get it. Good work. Okay, I think we're going to move right into our mat skill. So in week 2, we are we do a mat in the same place. We're not moving it around between each repetition like we were in week 1. And then we're also waiting for the dogs to offer us either a sit or a down on the mat before we mark and reward. Last week we were rewarding just for them being on the mat, but we're upping the criteria a little bit this week. We want them either in a sit or a down. I'm not going to verbally say sit or down when we're working on this because eventually this mat skill, when you say mat or place or whatever you're going to call it, we're going to call it mat, it's going to encompass them going into that sit or down position. So I'm going to put that mat down. Dolly, go to your mat. So see how she offered me that sit? That's when I'm clicking and rewarding, and look, she's already in that down position. So I'm going to feed her on the mat right between her paws, and then I'm going to use that reset cookie when I want to let her off the mat. Go get it. Dolly, go to your mat. So waiting for her to offer. So I'm going to help her get into that down position. Good girl. I'm going to reward her a few times for maintaining that duration in that position. Go get it. And then I'm releasing her off the mat in different directions. I don't want to always release her in the same direction. Just going to kind of help to generalize this behavior. Go to your mat. Nice work. Still chewing? Go get it. Whoops, stuck to my hand. Dolly, go to your mat. So I'm going to help her because she found something interesting on the side of that, the corner of the mat there. I'm going to help her get into position. Good, nice work. So we do want to wait when we can to see if our dog's going to offer us that sit or that down. But if we're waiting them out like 10 seconds and they're not getting it, then we can go in and help them. Go get it. We just want to give them the opportunity to kind of figure it out on their own. I think sometimes they're a little too eager to want to help them, and then they have a harder time learning. Dolly, go to your mat. So I just want to see if she's going to offer us that down. Nice work. So see, it took her a couple seconds, but she figured it out. Go get it. We'll do one more here. Dolly, go to your mat. So I'm going to help her. So I think she found something interesting on the floor. So notice how I'm not verbally saying sit or down. I'm just getting her into position using that food lure. Nice work, Dolly. Go get it. Good job. Okay. This week we started to introduce the crate. That is new to them this week. So all we are doing is building up the value of them going in and out of the crate. We're not closing the door. We're not doing any duration in the crate. So I'm going to open that door. Dolly, kennel. Tossing a piece in the back here. Clicking once all 4 paws are in. I'm going to wait till she finishes eating that, and then I am going to use that get it cookie to let her out of the crate. So I'm going to show her the food. Go get it. And then we're going to do this again. Dolly, kennel. So tossing the food in there. Clicking once all 4 paws are in. She's eating that treat. And then when she's done eating it, I'm going to show her a second piece and use that get it to let her out of the crate. You can say get it or okay. Get it. We'll do one more here. Kennel. Nice work. Okay, I'm gonna shut this door because she's probably gonna try to go back in it if I don't. All right. We've been continuing to work on getting our puppies dressed in their harness. So for this, again, I do find it easier if I can pick up, since she's so little, I am going to pick her up while I get this on her. Hi, sweetheart. Yeah. So let's see if she wants to take a piece of food. Not interested, huh? Okay. So I'm going to hold her while I get her arms in. And then I'm going to show her that piece of food. And when I put her down on the ground, I'm going to drop it right on the floor. So now she's interested in eating that food while I get the harness on her all the way. Nice work, girly. So we did introduce attaching a leash today, or this week. So for this, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to use some food to keep her occupied while I get her hooked up to the leash. So I'm going to let her lick the food. Come here, silly girl. And then I'm going to put it down on the ground, so now she's interested in the food while I get her hooked up. Okay. And then all we're doing this week with the leash on is getting the dogs to follow a food lure while wearing this leash. What are you doing, girly? Ready? Dolly! What are you doing, silly? Come here. So, she is a little unsure of the leash, which is fine. So I'm just going to switch from her regular treats to a little bit of chicken here. So this is really the first time that they have a leash connected to them, so this isn't unusual. Okay, so what do we think of that chicken? Oh, good girl. So again, all we're doing is getting the puppies used to a little bit of movement while they're wearing this leash. Since this is the first week that they're wearing it, we're keeping the criteria pretty low. Dolly, good puppy. Dolly, nice work. We'll do one or two more. Oh, what's that? Dolly, good girl. Okay. So now when I'm going to take the leash and harness off, I'm going to use food again. I'm going to show her that food, put it down on the ground. So now she's eating that food while I take the harness off. I'm not even going to worry about unclipping that leash. It's just going to be one less thing to do. So I'm taking the harness and leash off all at once. Nice work, Dolly. This week we started to introduce the puppies to grooming tools. So we're using a brush and a pair of nail clippers for this. So we're going to start out with the brush here. I'm going to start out with the flat side, not even with the bristles. So I'm going to get Dolly good and interested in this food, and then I'm just going to take the brush and run it along her spine. Yes, good girl. Oops. We'll do that a second time here. So getting her interested in the food first. Yes. Good girl. And then on the third one, I am going to turn the brush so that she's lightly feeling the bristles. Yes, good girl. Nice work. Okay. Nail clippers, we're going to start out very similarly. I'm going to get her interested in a piece of food first, and then I'm just going to run the nail clippers along her spine so she can just kind of start to see what they feel like. Yes. And then on the next repetition, I'm going to start out at her shoulder blade and slide down one of her paws here. So getting her interested in the food first. She's very interested in the nail clippers, so it's going to be important to get her on the food first. So starting at her shoulder, sliding down her paw, and then quickly lifting up her paw. Yes. Now being gentle with this, again, I just want her used to the feeling of the clippers on her body. We'll do one more with one of the back paws here. Come in. Oh, what's that? What's that? Yeah. So for the back paws, I'll start kind of at her hindquarters here, and then same thing, I'm going to slide down her leg, pick up her paw, yes, mark with that yes, and give her the food. Nice work. Yeah. We've also been continuing to work on their body handling. So for restraint holds, we're adding a little bit of pressure and duration this week. Last week it was just a very quick underneath the belly. Let me get her on a piece of food first here. I want her to turn so you can see. What's that? Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to go underneath her belly. A little bit of pressure, a little duration. Yes. Mark and reward. And then we're continuing to work with their tail, their ears, their feet. So with the tail again, a little bit of light pressure, holding up her tail a little bit. Yes. That's going to get her used to when they have to take her temperature at the vet. We'll do a little bit with her ears here. Yes. Anytime I'm working with their face, sometimes I will get them to do a sit in front of me. It's just easier for me to see what we're doing here. So like right now I'm going to work with her eyes a little bit. Just lightly pulling up her eyelid. Yes. We'll do a little with her mouth as well, just kind of pulling up her gums so we can get a good look at her teeth. Yes, good girl. And then we've been continuing to handle their paws as well. So for this I do want to get her standing up. Yes, good girl. Nice work. That is it for Dolly's week 2 video recap. Make sure that you're looking at your handouts and your video library for more instructions on how to work on these skills at home.